Howdy, Possum Patty here, and yes, I have the family notebook out. And I started with just 2 fun pages, but today let's get into some family stories. I had no idea where to start doing this, so I just popped on to Ancestry.com this morning, and the very first thing that popped up about my 5th great-granduncles is a very interesting story. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop it into the journal and just go from there. Genealogy is such a rabbit hole to go down. It's unbelievable. Anyway, this is my family tree notebook. I'm probably going to put something right there. And I did these 2 pages the other day just to get started. And as you can see, I did put in some of the family names here. There's a lot more to go on there, but I just wanted to get started with a few things. And this guy's hat is popping off. Where's my glue stick? Mess on the desk as usual. I got rocks here. I got everything. So many projects to work on. So little time. Anyway, this was super fun to do. So I'm going to get some stories out of a book called the Cantrell Genealogy, a record of the descendants of Richard Cantrell, who was a resident of Philadelphia prior to 1689, and of earlier Cantrells in England and America. By Susan Cantrell Christie. Now this is in the Commons. I believe it is from early 1900s. So it has been around a while. And I just want to put this on a page, and so I can refer back to this book. I printed it out on this cardstock. I thought I had some parchment looking kind of paper, but I couldn't find it, so I was like, we'll just go with brown. This is kind of like craft paper. And then I'm thinking, how can I decorate this? You know, I'm just having a blast with everything. So I have these Tim Holtz little guys from, and this is the Halloween set. I haven't used these yet. Die cut shapes, Halloween. Are they Tim Holtz? It doesn't say Tim Holtz, does it? Oh well. They're Tim Holtz-like little cardstock. And I'm flipping through these, and I'm like, oh, these are going to be awesome to use in this book. Well, this one's got 4 legs, so I don't know if anybody in the family had 4 legs. Here's TT. She was sleeping in the other room. Come on up. Come on. And now she's here. She missed the beginning of the video. Unlike her. Oh, that's a nice one too. But it is a dark, cold day. And that one's sitting on something. Oh, this one's got a little doll. Oh, that one's got a rabbit. Yeah, so I had never opened these, haven't looked at them. Been sitting around for quite a while now. And I want to use stuff I have. So these just look so serious. They look like Cantrell, so they have to go in this picture. All right, I'm going to cut this down to the size of the page and then glue these on here just to get today's journaling started. I call these vintage photographs instant ancestors. Like when you go to the flea market and there's all these old photos and nobody knows who they are. You can just, you know, buy a couple of them, put them in frames, and put them on the wall. And all those are my ancestors. Too funny. Well, you know, me, I had to go with some color for the background. And I might distress around that. I'm thinking about that. And that's going to be this page. And this is just a like a reference page, I guess you can call it, just to have the cover of the book in this notebook so I can refer to it. I did download a PDF of the entire book, and it's been a while. I read this back when, I think on my second round of genealogy quests. The second time I went down. This is my third, basically, my third time going down the rabbit hole. Ooh, that's a good thing. You know what? How appropriate. The year of the rabbit. And I've decided to make my third trip down the genealogy rabbit hole. Down the rabbit hole that is genealogy. So, that is that. There we go. Okay. And because I have this lumpy crown there, I have to turn this over to press it down. But that's okay. We can live with that. All right. There. Never cut straight. But that's okay. Don't cut straight. Don't paste down straight. All that good stuff. Yeah, so I had come across this book before. And this book is what a lot of people are basing their family tree on, was the studies that were done in this book. And this was quite an extensive study. I mean, there's all kinds of references and records that, you know, somebody consulted to do this. And yet other people come along and say, oh, you can't believe that. So, you know, whatever. Oh, what's TT want? Oh, TT wants to go back out. She doesn't know if she wants to be in here or out there with Mr. Possum. So I believe this book is over 100 years old. I have to find the publisher's date. But I was reading somewhere in 1907. But that has to be researched. So there's several copies online, and one actually has some handwritten notes and things in it. So I got to go back and look at that one again. And this glue stick is almost done already. I think this was my Christmas glue stick. Well, that's probably a good thing. That means I'm doing a lot of journaling. Or gluing, anyway. You know, this is craft paper. It's kind of heavy. I'm going to put a little of this in the corner, a little tacky glue. Oh, this is it's a little wet because this was the glue that got clogged up. And I got some water inside while I was unclogging it. But that's okay. Where's my glue spreaders? I'm reaching over for some glue spreaders. Okay. Throw that down on the floor because now it's all full of glue. Let's see, we'll have to give this reference book number 1. Oh, so, yeah, there was a couple other copies of this online, one with handwritten notes, and there was also a couple other Cantrell books that I hadn't seen anywhere before, and I haven't gotten into those yet. Now, is this not super fun compared to a notebook that looks like this? Yeah, that's why I'm doing this. Now, this first story that comes from this book that I was reading about this morning, and I remember this now but you know, the brain, she's broke. I didn't remember it until this morning. And this story has to do with the swamp fox. Now, to me, this is so interesting because I'm making all these connections. Back in 1959, 1960, 1961, something like that, Walt Disney had this series called Swamp Fox. And I love that series. I used to watch it and watch it and watch it all the time. Now, this series is based on the real life of General Francis Marion, who developed guerrilla warfare down in South Carolina during the Revolutionary War. Now, he is not my relative, although I just checked WikiTree, and we are related 3 times by marriage. Like someone in my family married somebody whose family married somebody that married into his family, but that's not what this story is about. I mean, it is about the swamp fox, but this story is about 3 of my great-grand-uncles, and they're like 5 times great-grand-uncles, and their names are Aaron, Simon, and Peter Cantrell. And they were young boys when the Revolutionary broke out, living with their parents in Spartanburg County, South Carolina. In 1780 to 81, they were among the South Carolinian lads who acted as scouts to General Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. I'll tell you some more of the story as I go along. I put a little paper in the background of the next page. And this paper is from the same book as that one. Paper Studio, Hobby Lobby, Country Road. 20 designs for each. You get 80 sheets. I paid probably half price on that one. And I thought this one was very vintagey looking. I've got a scrap of this goldish paper. And I'm going to put down the Swamp Fox TV show. A little cutout that I made here. I love this. 1959 to 1961-ish. And then I cut off the first part of the story of the 5 great-grand-uncles. And here is my generation chart. So while I glue down the first part of the story here, I gotta get my glue paper back again. I will voice over the next paragraph of this story. We read in history that in the darkest hour of the American cause in South Carolina, Marion, who had already distinguished himself as an officer, formed Marion's brigade. His men were armed with what they could get. Some carried rude sabers hammered out of old saws. Their bullets were often made by melting down pewter mugs and platters. Their costumes were often grotesque, the majority being raggedly clothed with small skin caps on their heads, as shabby as themselves. They lived chiefly on hominy and potatoes, and they were capable of any amount of hardship, in which their commander set them a good example by sleeping on the ground, usually without a blanket. With his force, Marion would move with incredible swiftness, striking now one weak point in the enemy's defenses and then quickly falling on another far away. He knew every byway. It was impossible to entrap this swamp fox. When hard-pressed by the enemy, he would disband his force, leaving every man to extricate himself. He gave the British no peace. With all his boldness, Francis Marion was famed for the sweetness of his temper, and his men were devoted to him. All right, moving on to the next part of the story. I switched out the gold paper because look at that. Is this some kind of magical paper? You put glue stick on it and it turns colors? There must be some kind of pH reaction to this. If you know what this is, you can comment below because I'm not really sure what this is. Look at this. Oh well, it surprised me, that's all. All right, so the next part of the story, I think it's going to take several of these composition books to get through this family. They're never-ending stories. Possum Patty's family. All right, so the part that I just read to you, I'm going to... Will this fit in here? Cut this. Oh, the snowplow truck from the township just went by. That's interesting. They didn't have the plow down. They're just driving down the street. It is snowing. March is knocking on the door, and winter decided to come in. I don't think it's going to be a storm, though. I think it's just going to be a little snowfall. This is weird, the way that one word is sticking out there. Oh well. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? We don't need all that white for sure. So I do have a couple more pictures I can use. This is a portrait of the real Frances Marion as opposed to the Walt Disney version of Frances Marion. And this almost fits here. I could cut off part of the portrait, I guess. I could cut this down and re-de-stress it so that this fits on the page. You do what you gotta do, right? You do what you gotta do. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this page while I read the next part of the story. And I do have another picture here for the next page, which I can explain in a few minutes after I do this page. And let's see what we got now. Oh, I'm going to go find some paper for the background, and then I'm going to glue these things down, and while I do that, I will read the next paragraph. Into this irregular warfare, near the close of the Revolution, our 3 young Cantrell soldiers entered. We regret our inability to find exact record of their fearless service, but the very nature of it made this almost impossible. There is the following well-known tradition in many branches of the family regarding Aaron, Simon, and Peter Cantrell, and this is that they were taken prisoners while on scout duty and condemned to be shot. They were bound by cords and led to a lonely spot. Some of the traditions relate that both Aaron and Peter escaped, and as there were several Aaron and Peter Cantrells of that age in South Carolina, this may well be true, but we could not verify this. Others say that only Peter escaped, and that in running away he fell over a tree and severed the cords that bound him, which enabled him to run faster and gain General Marion's camp, some 2 miles away, in safety. Simon Cantrell was bound to a stake. He asked for time to pray, but while praying, his captors, said to be Colonel Tarleton's men, fairly riddled his body with bullets. And this is from the Cantrell Genealogy, 1908, by Susan Cantrell Christie, pages 96 to 97. Now, in this picture, this is General Marion. This is a British officer. This is his militia behind him, unpaid, ragtag group of fellows in the background. And this is an oil painting by John Blake White called General Marion Inviting a British Officer to Share His Meal. And apparently the meal is a bunch of sweet potatoes. So cool, so cool. So the Cantrells would be, not that this is necessarily them, but in real life, the three Cantrell brothers would be the ragtag lot that is behind General Marion. So I am just going to glue this down on here with a couple of little signs. Maybe I'll distress. I had to distress the printout because, I don't know, I got glue all over it. And then my fingers must have had black on them, and I messed that all up. So when we mess things up, all we have to do is distress. So there are a lot of family legends. There used to be this program where famous people would go on, and then the genealogy detectives would investigate the stories in their family to see if they were real or not. Man, I would love to get on that program and have somebody investigate these stories. That would be like so cool. All right, let's see if I can get these glued down without making too much of a mess. And then I think I'm going to just do one more page because I told you genealogy is a rabbit hole. Once you go down the rabbit hole, one person leads to another, one story leads to another, and then you get into all the arguments about what is real and what is not. I'll leave room for that little name there at the bottom. So I will put that about there. I started writing with one pen on this side. It was kind of, pen was too fat. I couldn't fit all the information. So I flipped it over and wrote on the other side. Now the next page is going to be about Francis Marion, how he is 18 degrees separated from Possum Patty. Doesn't look very straight, does it? Doesn't matter. This is a notebook, not a work of art. So I was looking for a few things while I was getting ready to do these pages, and I ran into a couple of other things. I'm like, oh my gosh, now I gotta look all that up. One thing just leads to another. One thing leads to another. All right, so this is about the 3 fifth great grand uncles and Francis Marion. So this page is how I'm related to Francis Marion, and I think I need a background. I don't know if I want to cut another sheet of paper. Can I just can I just fudge something on this page? I've got all this other paper out here, and none of it is wide enough, so I'll see what I can come up with. I'm going to use this woodcut illustration of General Marion, moving some stuff out of the way so I can have some room to glue here. Oh, I was going to put this on here. Something like that. This paper that's not all sticky. It's not all sticky. Let's see, I got everybody here. 6, 7, 13, 14. Okay, because I had to cut everything up to fit it on the page. Okay. I tell these stories to Mr. Possum. He's like, no, that's not true. That's not true. I said, well, that's family legend. That's not true. Could be. Could be true. Well, at least we know it is a true family legend. Now, how much of the legend is true or not, we shall someday discover or not. There is a book written about the general there, but apparently it is this same fellow, the author is the same fellow that wrote the book about Washington, in which he told the story of Washington chopping down the cherry tree and saying, "I can never tell a lie." And apparently that story is not true, so the biography of Washington done by that gentleman is embellished, shall we say, embellished. So if he wrote the story about the general here, everyone is saying it is probably embellished. Oh, family stories, yeah. Not always true, are they? Not always true. I'll try wiping it with a towel. So I think this genealogy is going to take up a lot of my time. And also researching rocks for Stanley. And also journaling, you know, my not so daily journaling. I have to give up something. Cooking, cleaning, laundry. Just no time to do that. Wow, what a start do we have here. We started with the Cantrells. There's so many stories in this book. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of research. But super, super fun. I just love journaling. You can probably tell that, I guess. And these two new projects are giving me so much to journal about. I mean, it's just so interesting to study your family stories and your connections and your relations to different events in history. And then to learn about the natural world around you. So I just want to thank you for coming along today, and maybe you're starting a little notebook with some things that you can discover about your family. I know Ancestry costs. I just got the special on that, but WikiTree is free, and there's a couple of other free websites too. So happy junk journaling, happy family tree notebook journaling. Bye-bye.